How are you
Yes,
doing?
hello.
Yeah, just like Mike was saying, we met 2 weeks ago in Calgary. It was at the INCPS, IEEE INCPS, Industrial and Commercial Power Systems Conference. And my background is I'm an electrical engineer. I work for Littelfuse Starco out of Canada, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Hmm.
And I have an MBA as well. Just finished my MBA recently. So, and my job is more like product management. I started in R&D, research and development, now I'm product management, things like that. So we had a very good, I had a very good chat with Mike, and he kind of said, I can recruit you doing this. And I was like, yeah, sure, sounds like fun. So this
Hmm.
is the reason I'm here today.
It's great.
Well, yeah, we could talk a bit about that since our colleagues will hear what's going on here. There's a couple of paper abstracts which will affect the E&H committee. But first, Christine, do you want to say a little bit of what you do here at the U of M?
Sure. Mike has brought me on board to help him and help the effort of standard advocacy. So we're reaching out to all the constituents to see what we can do to empower the educational industry.
And there she is, right there, right? Is that you, Christine? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. U of M for me, it's University of Manitoba. But
Yeah.
I guess,
Right. University of Michigan,
yeah,
USA.
in Canada, it's University of Manitoba. But yeah, they're kind of next door.
That's right.
Well,
In the north.
And University of S.
let's see here. Let's take a look at. Are you close to? Here we are. It's one of the older universities around. We were founded in 1817, which
Yeah.
was about 5 years before, which was 5 years before the state of Michigan became a state. So, because we were founded in 1817, in fact, that's even in our phone number, 764-1817, it had some interesting effects. It meant that we would have constitutional autonomy since we were founded before before the state actually became ratified as a member of the United States, that it allows us to have what we call a board of regents here. Our governance is different than the governance of the other colleges and universities in the state of Michigan. So, at least with respect to codes and standards, we actually can do anything we darn well please. Now, do we risk? Do we risk doing something what we darn well please? We sure do. So we try to conform to the generally accepted standard of care, but because of our economic footprint, we feel that there's some leadership obligation that we have, and so that's what we've been doing here. I've been doing this for a long time. So where's the university with respect to Winnipeg?
Okay, so I'm University of Saskatchewan. Winnipeg is the one. University of Manitoba is in Winnipeg, but this is the province next to me. I'm in Saskatchewan, so.
Oh, you're actually there. Okay, so you think of U of M. All right. Okay, so what was your alma? So your alma mater was.
Yeah, Saskatoon. So it would be like a little bit further northwest from Saskatchewan.
So let's take a look at that. We actually do a fair amount of this in these teleconferences since we are an education. Let's see if do you have a power plant there?
And the University of Saskatchewan is 105 years old, I think.
Okay.
That's like, 101. Yeah, so.
There you are.
1907. So it was 100 and. Oh yeah.
So let's see. Do you have a power plant there or anything?
I believe they do. I'm not quite sure, but I think they do have one. Those get emailed and shut down.
Cogen plant, Saskatoon. Looks like it's not. But anyway, okay. Very, very nice. Let's see. I always try to get myself oriented to the football stadium. Usually that's easy to find on the map. I guess I don't see it here.
It's kind of across the street from where I live.
Is it over here? Is that where it's at? Your football stadium?
It's called the Griffith Stadium. If you look up Griffith Stadium, it will be there.
But it's a private stadium. It's not owned by the university.
No, it belongs to the university. No, it's the Griffith Stadium belongs to the university.
Oh.
It's where the university team plays.
I'm hoping it would take me there. I'm not seeing it. Is it?
No, I think it's. I can probably if you. Where is it?
It's hard. It's okay. I just wanted to acknowledge your university. Let's see a kind of let's see what's okay. Here we go. Nice. Looks like you're using some of the local materials.
Yeah, it's one of the, I guess, old universities in Canada. Not the oldest, but one of the oldest, over 100 years. Nice
I see. The architecture taking chances with the old and new here, I see.
Yeah, this is like probably the agriculture building. It's kind of new. But what happened is, over 100 years ago, when they wanted to have a university in this province, Saskatchewan, they picked this place so there was no, this is the stadium here. I kind of live across the street from this.
Mm-hmm.
And they just started this university. There was no city there. They just picked the location by the river. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the city kind of grew around the university. So it's kind of more of a university city.
Mm-hmm.
In the summertime, it's not as busy because all the students kind of go home or...
All the riffraff goes home. It's kind of quiet. Yeah.
So,
I have the same situation. So this looks agricultural to me.
Yeah, it's very agricultural. Saskatchewan is very agricultural.
It's very beautiful. Good gosh. Well, this is your power plant. They call it your heating plant. Okay, yeah. We struggle with that also. The electrical people call it the power plant. The mechanical people call it the heating plant. So the acronym is CHP among the mechanical engineers and CPP among the electrical engineers. And if you don't think that causes problems in some of our drawings, think again.
different names for the same thing always cause a problem. So you can see this is out of winter. So that wasn't a very...
this is very interesting. A lot of the land grant institutions, it turns out that there's a lot of attention, at least in the standard space, at least on the academic side, of our industry for sustainable farming. So occasionally one of the it turns out the world's lead the trade association, actually the standards organization, the American Society of Agriculture and Biological Engineers, is actually headquarters in St. Joseph, Michigan. So it's a fairly large organization that it pulls together all the land grant colleges and universities and tries to do those sustainability things that the sustainability people like to do. So it turns out that every process here is being studied in detail. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. There's a fair number of land grant institutions. A land grant, as you might know, our Abraham Lincoln, you might have heard of him, was responsible for putting those together. But this is a really pretty campus, Nahad.
Yeah, I don't know if, I remember reading once it was voted one of the prettiest 10 campuses in North America or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, like I said, it started at the university and then a city. So everything is in the same location. It's huge, right? All this land is just owned by the university. Like we have like maybe a very limited satellite locations downtown or something, but like a building or something. But everything is kind of central, and the roads within the campus.
Yeah, very pretty. Yeah.
But this is just in the summertime. In the wintertime, it's not as pretty.
So, yeah, some of that happens here too. So anyway, well, all right, that was a nice little introduction to this campus. I'd like to know who is.
This is the engineering college, by the way. The picture that you have now, this is the engineering.
Right here.
Yeah, this like red building. It's kind of like an old one.
Do you have any contacts? Do you keep in touch with the facility people over there?
I don't know the facility people. Okay, one of my friends used to work there as a facility engineer, but he left like a year ago. So I think he can probably still know some people there. But he was my contact. He changed jobs like almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he was my kind of contact.
It'll be nice to know. As you know, we're still recovering from Calgary. At least that was the excuse this morning with our work groups, is that just a lot of people were busy. You spend 2 weeks getting ready for a 1 week conference, and so it takes a while. I take the number of days you're out of the office and you square it, and that's the number of days it takes to recover from what you just did. So that's Mike Anthony's equation for conference disruption. So in any case, well, since I've just run up 15 minutes talking about the University of Saskatchewan, if we go back to what we had listed here, now here's me struggling to find out what we had listed. So we talked this morning. We had a guy from Ohio State come in and talk a bit about, and you can find that here. I believe if you come over here, you'll see that I uploaded that. And he was promoting. He's looking for more funding for microgrid concepts. And the discussion we had dealt largely with how can you scale up or scale down these concepts to have meaningful results for our industry. And as you and I think you're sensitive to these numbers, Nahad, and these are some of the numbers I was talking about on the bus. It's that our industry is 1.2 trillion. We spend about 300 billion on facilities related. The rest of the salaries for professors and the other things the students need. Our energy bill is about 10% of this here, and that 30 billion is comprised of this square footage here. So when I say I want to hit a benchmark, I want to take 2% out of my embedded cost. What's in play is 600 million. Now that's okay. It's okay to try to get 600 million beaten out, but what's a more delicate discussion is working on advocating for sustainability projects as effective use of limited advocacy resources as dealing with my labor costs. Typically, my labor costs are twice as much as any product cost. So I would ask the question, how much money are we spending to save 600 billion? And in the case of the net zero campus, where everybody wants to wipe that number out, right? Everybody wants a windmill, they want a solar panel, they want to do things with storage, and I get that, and I'll be a partisan and help out as best I can. But my question would be, would we be spending 1.2 trillion to save 30 billion? And if that's the case, that's a very high price compared with the other alternatives. And that's why I think your sensitivity with some formal training in economic alternatives, that you have to ask, I've got only so much money to leverage value in other areas. And so it's a difficult question to ask. I don't know. I'm hoping that people will come back and argue against me. But so far, I've been talking about this for almost a year now. And it was inspired by the sheer number of sustainability and energy management work groups in our industry. All good people. But I just wonder, has all the low-hanging fruit been harvested? That would be my question. What are your thoughts, Nahad?
I wasn't I've never been involved with the facility and the energy side of universities, but it's a valid question. I know with the the new regulation with the, for example, electric vehicles and zero energy. I can't remember the.
That's the new buzzword, net zero. And,
whatever. So all this kind of thing. There is a push to do this. If it's economical or not, it's hard to tell.
Well,
on the long run, but I don't know.
I will quote Wai-Jen, and Wai-Jen and I are of like mind. We're playing along. We're trying to play well with others on this. But those of us who've been in the industry for a while, we welcome new minds, fresh ideas, and we're going to help the best we can. Obviously, I'm trying to help here by getting the discussion going. But I do want to ask the tougher question, which is, do we have an oversupply of sustainability and energy managers? That's the question. You don't have to have an answer for that. I want them to call in and say we're saving, and that's good. That's good. Now I think in the absence of had we not been able to do this, I don't think we've got some of the savings. And I think it is changing the paradigm of what we consider really how a society as a whole we use energy and leave the world and the globe a better place for our children. So I think it has netted out. But if you would draw a control volume around some of this, I think you have a very what's the argument? You would have it's not a slam dunk. It's not slam dunk here. That much said, that came up this morning. Let's see what
I was gonna
else.
say it could, there is other aspects than economical aspects. Like maybe the numbers don't make much sense, but there are other things like you mentioned, better work for our kids and less pollution and all those kind of things. So there's different of it, I guess, not just the money aspect.
Yeah,
Because
I get that.
gas, like oil or gas, is much cheaper now than how it was, and it's going to go back probably to the normal price. But if you just base the decision on money, then we don't have electric vehicles and all this kind of stuff.
Actually, we had a discussion with this gentleman from Ohio State. It turns out, and it was my thesis, that his microgrid for stone crushing operations are not that much different than what you see at an intercollegiate football stadium on a Saturday. You might go from 1 megawatt to 6 megawatts in about 4 hours. That's a heavy manufacturing. that's quite a ramp up of load. Of course, you only see that 100 hours a year. So I'm just waiting for the discussion, a rising discussion about a green football game. I know I did the electrical over here at the University of Michigan, and when we we run up that kind of a load. Although frankly, it's not as large as you would think it would be, but the difference between zero, it is a step function, and I can just hear it right now that this football game, Ohio State Michigan game, is a green production, and I could see. So that's what got me back to an area of inquiry that I got into some years ago, and now I have some resources to pick it up. Lighting is a huge load in football stadiums, as you know, and there's always this revenue trade-off that you have to make. But the NCAA is not a standards developer, but they do have lighting practices. I've had to follow these, and so they don't call them standards; they call them best practices. And if you don't follow them, there's revenues that are at stake. So I wanted to put this on our agenda because if we don't, you'll have ASHRAE, you'll have the heating and air conditioning or refrigeration engineers. They'll be moving into athletic campus lighting. They'll be moving into campus athletic lighting. And I think that they may not have the best minds for that. I think the electrical engineers might be in better position to talk about lighting or to set best practices for lighting. So that came up this morning. Let's see, what else did we talk about? The agendas were roughly the same. So we did the net zero campus. We also talked a little bit about the conference. I'm hoping you and I can write a paper on. In fact, we did talk a bit about research. Let's do Littelfuse. You're privately owned, isn't that right, Nahad?
No, it's publicly traded. It's Littelfuse is publicly traded.
Okay, so our paper, at least the one I suggested we write, and obviously it's contingent upon what you're feeling, where your passion lies, but is I don't know what your sales are, but our question was: are manufacturers spending too much on marketing and not enough on R&D, or should it be the other way around? That was a stock performance. Let's look and see what we've got here. Stock performance. So this is your classic infrastructure stock. This is one that the pension funds want to use because it's a nice, safe one, and you sell this to your grandma. That's a sort of sort of stock you want to work with. So it's fairly stable. But in any case, in general, though, is our industry spending enough on R&D? I have some data on the return you get on investment for every 1% of R&D, the return you get in revenue growth in certain industries. Technology, if you put 10% in R&D, you may get as much as 20% revenue growth. That's not the case in the power industry. If they put $1 in for R&D, they may only get $1.15 back in revenue growth. and there may not be enough. But that's the kind of money that's flowing through this space. So I thought that by having that discussion, we would certainly get people like Ed Larson and Peter and some of our other colleagues at Eaton, for example, all good people, but we'd just ask them tougher questions about could we take some chances with the products? Could we take some chances with the products? I don't doubt that training and marketing is important, but maybe, for example, here's a crazy idea. Suppose we were to try to invent a product to get rid of current transformers. You know that some of these current transformers are huge. Just think about it. If you're able to measure current or accurately, at least for relay purposes, and this might be something Littlefuse wants to get into. Maybe you and I should cut a patent, huh? What can you use for opticals? Use a Butterworth filter of some sort for getting heat information off of a prepared surface on a copper bus. And just imagine what switchgear looks like without current transformers. That's a big deal.
Mike, it's kind of interesting that you brought this up because one of the things, like I mentioned, that I have some ideas I'm thinking of, and I don't think Littlefuse would get into this, but one of the things I was reading optical fibers and how to maybe come up with ideas for using light. So instead of having this heavy iron core CT or current transformer, it can be a light sensor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know there are I saw some things that ABB did and for high voltages, but it's not available for low voltage. And those things I was thinking, this would make life much easier if we can have the same concept, because current has changed the polarization of light. So if you have fiber optics and light, let's say, it's the same deal, like current or cable going through a fiber optic CT-like or a donut kind of thing. This light would change the polarization of current would change the polarization of light, and this can be measured. I'm not a physicist, but I read some things that you can do this, and then based on the change in polarization, you can measure calibration-wise, of course, measure the current going through or causing this polarization. So like they called optical CTs, I believe, and there's there's another name. I read this like a while ago, and I was really interested, but I don't have the power to do this.
Just so Christine sees what we're talking about here, we're basically talking about eliminating this, and it doesn't seem like rocket surgeries to me. In switchgear and second in switchgear, you can see how much space they occupy. So this is just another area. Could you guys look into this a little bit? What that would mean is that this switchgear would be smaller, probably about 20%. 20% is fairly significant. There's probably enough of a market there. So that's the kind of stuff I enter. We mention that anecdotally, but in general, how can we approach our industry's leaders and ask them for a little more R&D and a little less marketing? Not that marketing's not important. Not that marketing, you got to sell. Nothing happens until something's sold. But, come on, guys.
Yeah, but
Pony up.
The other aspect of it, if you don't have a good product, then there's no reason to, you won't have anything to sell. So it's kind of chicken or egg, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you need to market and all. I'm considered marketing now, technical marketing, but still, if you don't have a good product, then you have nothing to sell anyways. So
yeah, okay.
What's the point?
So there it is. There's our half hour. So I think the biggest outcome we usually have is let's meet again June 2nd. But before then, I'll try to get a couple abstracts together, and maybe we can start doing a shared document of the ideas that we talked about. What's the one? If we hadn't had this teleconference, what is the paper that you would like me to help you write?
Oh, there are a few, but a quick question before I guess I answer this question. Would this just a meeting for you and me, or just because I thought there would be other people attending?
No, there almost never is. We had 2 people in this morning, but when you look at the committee itself, we've only been around since October. And it would be nice to be able to say that these guys can break away, but we find typically that they're not very well attended compared to what we're trying to do. So I don't really let that bother me anymore. It used to bother me, but when I realize what the feedback I'm getting is that just people are, especially in the public sector, people are just maxed out. I have one meeting I run a week, which is scheduled for Friday afternoon because we have this particular problem of people not wanting to do things in the middle of the week. But in general, I think average, and we've been doing these for, let me go here. Let's see how long. I wanted to show you how long we've been doing them. Where's our legacy website? Here's our legacy website. We've been doing this since, I guess, June 3rd now, almost a year now. And, little by little, the nice thing is that we actually we're getting proposals on the table. My job principally, Nahad, is to write code and get votes. That's the only true currency in the standard space. Unless you've got an idea out there to argue, preferably with data, you're going nowhere. All you're doing is you're just going to meetings, and you're not bringing value back for your travel expense. So, in any case, I put out 83 proposals last year. And
This is for IEEE, right? IEEE standards.
I put them on behalf, the 3000 series standards.
Yeah.
I put out 43 of them to drive them into the. I was trying to drive the 3000 series standards into the NEC meeting. Let me go back here. That's what this was all about. So
yeah, I attended the presentation in Calgary. I was there.
Okay. So you know that. So that's what we were trying to do. So now we have the second half of the NEC cycle to go through. So they were rejected largely because they weren't publishable. They weren't published at the time, and there's disagreement as to whether or not. We had that discussion. Is the NEC getting too big? Should electrical engineers be involved in writing the National Electrical Code? It seems hard to believe, but there's ambivalence about that, especially in the fire protection industry and building officials. Building officials really don't see much of a need for electrical engineers. Maybe electricians, but certainly not electrical engineers. So all this sounds very counterintuitive, but I suppose it makes it interesting. So in any case, our objective, though, is to get, and that's where we have separate breakout meetings. That's why you and I should talk. At another time, and we'll try to find a spot on our calendar but first I have to put some words on paper. But tell me, going back to to circle back to where your passion lies, when we were talking in the bus, what articles would you like to prepare, and what presentations would you like to prepare for the 2016 conference in Detroit?
It's an interesting question. So I like the idea of the panel that you suggested. I mean, whether a paper or a panel, it would be interesting, because although we're going to be back to the point that we're going to be preaching the choir, because we are talking about the importance of R&D to the engineer. Right?
The panel is probably better because it's going to be very delicate, because so much, you saw the manufacturers. You saw the manufacturers that were sponsoring the conference. Our job is not to, we want their sponsorship, but we also have to ask a few questions. Where do we find? It's always a diplomatic. I've talked to Christine, so she knows I struggle with this. You need the innovation of manufacturers, but we're remember, the education industry is the largest construction market, non-residential construction market in the United States. So first there's a road builders, then there's a home builders, and then there's us. And everybody else is far behind. So we have to ask these questions to be responsible stewards for our money. So I think the panel discussion is the one that we probably should go for. We'll still have to put an abstract together, and it's still early enough to get on the agenda. So let me try to get that together, and I'll do you use Google, a Google Share document? Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yeah, I can use it, yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So is there any closing reflections here? I try to apply this half-hour discipline. You're always welcome to call me right after this call. But other than that, then our next teleconference. Any thoughts? Any closing reflections you want to put as part of the record, Nahad?
No, I think we're talking just like part of that to answer the question of other papers, other articles. I don't know if there is a, like you think you mentioned some involvement in the Internet of Things or all this new technology. I would like to work on new technologies, but I don't know if there are any ideas. Like I know you said this is like a crazy idea. This kind of optical CT thing or optical fiber to replace current transformer. I don't really have like the one thing I was working on, which you already mentioned, is the new GFCIs, which is something I was working on for the code, and maybe there's an opportunity to do some application or case study at the university because I'm sure there's a lot of white areas and water pumps and electricity all over, so it's not a very safe environment.
Okay, well, let's get GFCIs. That's the conference I had just before this. GFCIs in bathrooms, student residence facilities. It'd be nice to get some data as to how many students we're killing with those things. Probably not a lot. But the point is that it is a safety product. It's an important one. And I think there were some interesting technical characteristics you brought up. So that strikes me. That's clearly something that would be in the ballpark of this group. Even in healthcare GFCIs.
Because the one thing I'm thinking of, with the Class A GFCIs, they're probably they're code required. They're required by the code now, so they're probably installed everywhere. But then for the location where there's 480 volt systems, and maybe there is leakage more than 6 milliamps, that Class A doesn't work. Maybe that's the opportunity for the special purpose GFCIs. I'm kind of working on this, so this is something that kind of. Which I mentioned when we were in Calgary, kind of close to my heart.
Okay.
But that being said, I don't want to be working on this topic forever because I'm looking for new ideas. So I'm kind of open to other ideas. But.
Well, at any point, you're welcome. If you've got an old PowerPoint you want to recycle, we can set up a special time for you and put you on our YouTube and Twitter channel. But I do like the idea of revisiting some of those, especially in healthcare. I think that's controlling electric charge in healthcare settings is very is a core topic for us. So, all right. So at the very least, let's if I don't see you before then, let's try to, if you want to call in on June 2nd, or actually you're welcome to call in the morning teleconference. Sometimes the Americans call in here, but this is set up so it's there 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Giuseppe will call in from time to time.
Yeah, I was going to call this morning, but I just was late because it's 7 my time. But I was up and.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's the other reason why we did this. So.
No, but it's okay. Sometimes probably 7 would be better for me, but today it was just like I was kind of late and I didn't get up early enough, so I thought, okay, I'll just join the afternoon one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go to the morning one.
Yeah, it's up to you. Works well. Okay. Well, I'll post this video up there. Christine, any closing thoughts?
No, none for me.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I'll send you the link to this clip, and well, at the very least, we'll see you June 2nd. But presumably, you'll see something from me before June 2nd. Okay, Nahad?
Good. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Take care. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, you guys have a good day.
You too.